First, I just want to say a great job by Martin and the rest of the board for hosting this conference. It's especially fun for me to be back here as a speaker, as I established the conference last year. So it's great to see that you've taken it up a notch and actually gotten 3 international speakers. Last year we had none, so that's a great job. So, yeah, and that actually... So yeah, our talk is pretty much, as Martin said, it's over the air and through the woods. Could say years, because it's been something that's been in progress for a while, but most of the development of the company and the game has happened over the last year. So we're trying to say that we've been so very efficient. But yes, what we'll cover today is basically the story of Antagonist, and then a little bit about how we're designing Through the Woods, and then we were hoping to have some time for questions afterwards. And maybe show a build in between there somewhere. So, the story of Antagonist sort of begins with these 2 people. The common denominator was we were both studying game design here at this school. And it's basically a little over 3 years ago since we first met, and we ended up in the same group at the first week of school. And they sort of say that when you're in college, most of the people will meet the love of your life. No homo, but it's been a great ride so far, and I'm not planning on getting home. But another thing about college is that college is the time for experimenting. And by that, of course, I mean that you should experiment with as many people as possible and find out who you're working best with. So when you're in school, like, go and attend as many projects and game jams and use all the PO-duket and stuff like that to find out who you're working with and how well you're working with them. Because if you're serious about going into the games industry and maybe starting something yourself, you're going to need a team. Your team is the most important thing, and you need to be able to work together well. So what we did is, well, we actually joined a not named game studio in the first year of school. That went not totally good. There were some challenges, but that's actually where we first started on the idea for the game that we're developing now. So the first prototype was actually done in 2011, but had basically nothing in it. And we found out it was way too ambitious, and we had to do something else first. Start with doing smaller projects. But being part of that company and looking at what was available out in the Norwegian games industry, we decided that we weren't completely pleased with what options there were, and we had to, or we wanted to, no, actually we had to start something ourselves. And through the ideas and everything we talked about, Antagonist was born. First established 2013 to participate in Dare to Digital, which was a nice experience. We learned a lot from that. We got to the Nordic finals, that was cool, but the good thing is that we didn't go further. So we could instead focus on our other project that we were much more passionate about. As you students at this school know, you're doing a main project at the end of your 3 years. And it's your own obligation to find out what sort of project, find a company to work for, stuff like that. So how many of you here are students at this school? And how many of you are not in the 3rd grade? And how many of you have started planning your final project? Okay, so more of you need to start planning that final project. It's the most important thing of your 3 years. And especially if you want to work with games, there's not a lot of options out there. You either have to be able to have the awesome team that you can present for an established studio, or you have to start something yourself. And to start something yourself, you need awesome people as well. So if you haven't found the best programmer, start buying him beers. But yeah, team is the most important thing. And with Antagonist, our roles. I'm the producer and he's the creative director. It basically means that he's working on the game, that's his responsibility. And I don't work so much on the game. I develop the people and not the game. But I still have I do marketing as well, so I have to have some say in what direction the game takes. But we're trying to separate the roles so that there's no, some arguments always, but yeah. But we find that we have a really good synergy. The things that I suck at, he's kind of good at, and the things he suck at, well, we have other people on the team. So through the years in school, we started, as I said, it started as an idea in 2011, but it became more of a firm thing in the end of 2013 when we were planning our bachelor project. At the time, it was actually called something completely different, a really generic title called The Island, because the game takes place on an island. And I thought it would sound really great, and he came up with this new title, and it was Through the Woods, so much better. And I was like, no, The Island is so cool. I'm so glad we changed it. But as I said, the idea for Through the Woods, or the first concept, started as part of our bachelor thesis. And we needed a team, and this was our team for the bachelor's project. That was after we were finished, so we were of course happy. Not so happy during. But we had a really cool learning experience, and we experienced a lot of the things that Andreas took up in his talk. He has also been a really helpful advisor to us, so whenever we have something we're wondering of, I can just call him and he's so helpful, which is pretty much the same for the rest of the Norwegian games industry. Everybody is really helpful, and it's such a small place, so you sort of have to be helpful because, well, everybody's your friend. So if you need help, there's no problem getting it. Just try to reach out. But yeah, that was a bachelor's project. And what we developed there, we had so many ambitions. And when I look back at what we had in June, compared to what we had a couple of months later, it's hard to believe that it was the same project. It took so many steps after the bachelor's project. I don't know why, because like you spent so much time in school preparing, you were doing different projects, but there's a change that happens when you're finished in school, and for some reason you take it more seriously and you manage to up the skill level. So this is basically the team today. We were visited by the video game attorney from New York, so we were doing the more laid-back, casual look in the team. We're not wearing fancy clothes every day. You are? Yes, I am. But I'm the producer, so. But yeah, the team today, Through the Woods. It's 12 people involved in the current project right now. So we're starting to become quite a sizable team. 5 of those are getting paid. But hey, some are getting paid, so that's a good thing. Out of those 5, there's the producer and the designer and or the creative director. Then we have the gameplay designer and programmer and 3D artist. So on top of that, we have the external people who are not getting paid. We have an audiovisual, community manager, 3 part-time workers, another programmer, a 3D artist, and 2 3D artists actually, because we just hired one. He'll be coming later today, so people should meet him. Most of the team is here today actually. It's really great that we're here and showing up at this conference. Of course, we need all the exposure as possible. And then we have also 2 art interns. One of them actually joined the team while we were in doing the bachelor's project, and from the enemy school, Noruf, is sitting right there. Which has been excellent. So try and collaborate between schools if you can. It's no reason not to. Especially if you go to game jams and stuff like that. Work with people you haven't worked with before. You learn a lot from that. And also another fun thing is that starting in January, we're joined by 7 students. So our team will grow to 19. I'm excited to see what will happen for that. But yeah, I don't know. Looking back at what we were able to produce while in school, I don't know if I should expect much. But as I said, the team is the most important thing we have, and you need to be able to work together. If you've gone to school for so many years, you become friends with so many people, but making games isn't all fun and games. Like, you have to sometimes be able to, I don't know, be the bad guy and say that maybe we aren't cut out to work together, you aren't delivering enough, and you have to be able to take those decisions to be able to further yourself and your project. So be prepared for that. You can still be friends even if you aren't working together. It's better to separate at an early moment instead of staying together and then getting more and more angry at each other. But yeah, that's the sad part. The important, I would say, important milestones that we had so far. We had some cool things happen. I think the most prominent is that we're getting paid, actually. So the reason for that is that we had an investment from something called the Founders Fund, which is a fund based behind Startup Lab, which is the incubator that we have our office in. So investors in that fund is people who have worked in the tech industry for so many years, everything from Opera to the former Funcom CEO. They don't really invest in games, but for some reason they've taken a liking to us, so that's been a good thing for us. And then we got some development grants from NFI, which was really cool. That means that they actually believe in the project and wants to see it happen. And we were selected as one of the 5 best game companies in Norway of 2014. I think this had hyperbolic statement, but they researched 30 companies in Norway, and we were selected as some of the most promising to receive investment. Maybe since we already had gotten, I don't know. It was fun being able to present, among others, and it's a fun thing to be able to say. It shows that we've done something right and we're getting noticed. And all of this done within a year of going out of school. So if you haven't started, you should. I mean, it's possible. You just have to work hard and not be a slacker. So I want to ask you guys one thing. How many here of you know about the IGDA? Okay, so to try and explain, it's sort of like Spillmakerlaget, if you know that, but it's on the international level. IGDA tried to establish in Norway, but they sort of failed, and some years later, Spillmakerlaget rose up. And Spillmakerlaget is sort of like Prosjektutvalget for Spill, so it's about building a community and working for improving conditions for games and stuff like that. But, so, the reason I wanted to bring up the IGDA is that they have something called a scholarship for students. And that's a really, really great experience and a chance to go for. I was lucky enough to receive 2 scholarships the last year and traveled to GDC in San Francisco and also to Gamescom in Germany. On the second trip, we actually had another student from NITH as well. So Karstein, if you guys remember him, he also graduated this summer. So it shows that it's possible for people from Norway to be able to be noticed in the rest of the world. Being at these events and being part of that program has been an enormous help for us. It's opened so many doors and given us so many opportunities to meet people that can help us both further the project and the company. So if you're a student, you should apply. They have an application date now, the 2nd of December. The thing that they're looking for is basically your involvement in the community. So if you want to further your chances of getting selected for a scholarship, which is basically a Kickstarter for your career, you should get involved in Prosjektutvalget for Spill and do whatever you can, help out with events such as this conference, and it will seriously improve your chances. They will, of course, look at if you have decent results in school, but that's not the most important thing. And that's actually not the most important thing for you to get a job later either. Like, don't just sit and cram in school, in classes. Do something more. Do other projects as well, and try and get involved as much in the community. It's a small community, so we have to all help out to be part of this big family. But yeah, that's the shilling part of how you should apply for the scholarship program. It's really, really awesome. I mean, you get to meet so many people, so apply. Well, no reason not to. But yes, that's enough about us in that way. Now we want to talk a little bit more about Through the Woods, which is, I think, a cool project.
Yeah, okay. Awesome. Okay, so what I want to do is just to talk about the design principles that we had on this project. And I want to start out by just posing a question. What do you guys think is the most important thing about game development? The most important thing about game development?
Solid game mechanics.
Developing.
Yeah.
Finishing stuff.
Finishing stuff. Very good. Yeah.
Passion.
Passion.
Earning enough money to make a new game.
Yeah. All are really, really important, but in my opinion, the top one thing is communication. Even if you're working alone, you have to communicate your product to people who want to buy it, to the community and everything. And especially within a team, if you can't communicate that, well, things go bad really quickly. We started Through the Woods as a bachelor thesis, as Anders mentioned. And for those of you who don't study at any TH, what's kind of important to mention about that is that usually you go to a company and you get a task and you do a project at a company. So since we didn't do that, we had to make our own framework for the product that we wanted to make, but we also had to start up our own company and so on. But I'm just going to talk about the project that we worked on. And we started out with a single goal, which was basically that we wanted to make people afraid of the forest game. It's a really broad term, and I'm going to go a little bit more specific, but this is kind of the mantra for the project as we started out. And as we sat down to kind of develop the framework, I'm just going to highlight the kind of boundaries that we set of things that we wanted to do with the project. So we wanted the game to be in third person, mainly because we wanted to do a narrative-driven story, and usually when you go to a guy or a girl and explain to them that we're doing a horror project, they usually try to suggest doing it in first person, but we said no, we want to do third person. And we wanted, this is kind of a nostalgic feel for my opinion. We wanted to do, we want people to sit down on the couch and play with friends, and kind of, whenever I played horror games with my friends on PlayStation 2 or something like that growing up, we would always come to a point where we had to pass on the control because people got too afraid to play or something. And so we didn't want a long experience, we want to be at maximum 4 hours. As I mentioned, we want a narrative drive. going back to the horror genre, something that I see done too often, even in movies today, is that they over-explain everything. They tell you that there's a guy with a gas mask and a red dress running around with a shotgun to kill people. And it just kind of ruins the experience, in my opinion. But yeah, the dialogue in the game, it's kind of hard to go back to figuring out how we ended up going for the dialogue system that is in our game. It was kind of more of just a natural way of just answering the question of, okay, so how do we want to tell the story? Well, we don't want too many cutscenes. We don't want cutscenes at all, actually. We don't want people to stop up to read notes or something like that. So that's how we came up with the idea of having a dialogue that kind of tells what the player is doing. But the dialogue is going on right now, and what they're telling is happening past tense. It's kind of hard to explain, but hopefully you'll understand it when we show the prototype later. And this also turned out to be kind of the main channel to deliver messages to a player if they're going the wrong way, if they're using too much time there, how the mechanics work in the game, and so on. And we wanted the game to be based around sneaking with a flashlight. You're in an environment where, well, you're not supposed to be out there, and the kind of the area that you're in has its own nature, and you're kind of the disturbance coming in there. So this also went back to the monster designs that we have in our game right now, that they're not supposed to be scary looking necessarily, but it's more about you being a disturbance to them, being a threat to these monsters who are trying to figure out what you want. We want the mechanics to be based around switching the flashlight on and off, so you need the flashlight to navigate, but at the same time you get visible to the threats around in the forest. So you have to switch it off, and you have to end up relying on different senses than your sight, be it hearing, navigating in the dark, stuff like that. And yeah, the goal is to not disturb the creatures, gameplay-wise. And we also decided to not have any weapons in the game. Yeah, and our challenge up until now has been more about what kind of information is important for the player, and figuring out how to show them just enough without being kind of too disruptive for the gameplay feel of the game. And of course it's a horror game, and then it's a lot about building up tension and not releasing the tension too soon or too slow. But yeah, I can go into details about this, but the guy, the main designer from Frictional Games who made Amnesia, has written 2 really good blog posts about this. I can post these links later about this, but it's mainly based around alien isolation, and they went official with their game, and it's really good read.
He also blogs a lot on very important topics, so you should all read his blog, or Frictional Games blog in general.
Yeah. And of course, extra credits, just did an episode on Tension Relief, which I'm also going to post later. It's really, really good. Yeah, so when we sat down to to evolve this theory of a game design into something that we wanted to test out before even prototyping, we went on to do interviews with people, just general questions about our game design, and we're trying to figure out how to do it. How many here has passed second grade of game design? Have you heard about persona and scenarios? Yeah? No? Awesome. Because this is a class that I, as Will Andreas mentioned about, slacked a lot. Yeah. And it's occurred to me now that a lot of the things that I learned there is really useful in the development, especially in the early phases of game development. So, okay, whenever someone is trying to do an interview, what I see a lot of people do is just send out Google spreadsheets and how to just write out what do you think about stealth games, and you write, I like Metal Gear Solid. It gets really specific, but what I recommend doing when it comes to interviews is that you sit down with people, and my opinion is that you will get a lot more, like one live interview with a guy or girl is worth 10 of the ones that you spread around on the internet, because you get live results and you see the reactions to your questions, and you can do the questions in other ways. You can stock them up, and it's kind of a design process going on live, and it's really interesting. And we did a lot of interviews. I think we ended up doing 20 of them, and we just had like really vague conversations about stealth, adventure, horror, the importance of replayability, and yeah, if we should do it third person or first person. What you can do with that data when you come back after the interviews is that you create a persona. A persona is basically using all the data that you have gotten from the interview and just putting it into a person. So you create kind of a character that is kind of your go-to guy or girl. Yeah. So you can answer the questions of what the user wants. So I did this. This is Linda. Of course, aptly named after my high school love. This is in Norwegian, but it basically just tells what kind of technology she likes, what kind of job she has. And out of that, you can create a scenario where she spots the game. And sitting down to play it, and how her first initial experience with the game is, and what motivates her further on. And my realization of doing this is just that you can use this and these kind of stories and create user stories out of them. So when you're handing out tasks to your team members, I'm going to show you. So this is a really early product backlog for a game. So we could sit down and use those stories and just tell a programmer why we need this feature in our game. And out from needing this feature, you can hand out tasks, such as to have this programming feature, we need these things, and so you have kind of an automatic way of designing a game. So yeah, so we ended up designing Through the Woods, and how much time do we have?
Yeah.
Enough?
Yes. You want to do the thing? I'll turn off the lights.
So we went live with our announcement in the 18th of March.
På skrivbordet. I mappen så det PressStart.
How many have seen our teaser, the first one? Okay, so there's some. I think I had the time to tell you a bit about how we went on to do this. It's kind of a fortunate position for us to have because we have a lot of external contributors, most importantly Dan, sitting up in the corner up there. He's our audio wizard, as we like to call him, because he does everything audio-wise for us. What I like to do as a result of what happened is to always ask Dan what he wants to see from our project. So when we went to make our first teaser, I just asked him, and he just basically told me that he wanted to see more of our antagonist in the game called Old Eric. So this is how this ended up. Hopefully to start. So. 2 seconds.
Somewhere near the western shores of Norway, there is a town surrounded by mountains. Near this town, there is a lake. To get the younger ones to behave, parents residing in the town would scare their children with the stories of a man known as Old Eric. Legends told he was living somewhere out in the lake and would snatch up any misbehaving child he could get his hands on. Most people who decide to stay in this town grow up to forget their fear of Old Eric. But there are those who claim to have seen him rowing his small boat around in the lake. There are even those who claim to have had a childhood friend that got snatched away by him. However, no one knows that I've been doing this since the dawn of man.
This was also made like 2 months into development. It was basically just, holy shit, I'm going to GCC, we have to have something ready. We put it together, and the interesting thing about it was that, as Andreas made a point of view, that you should show stuff. I'm not saying that we changed a lot of the game after putting this out, but it helped us form a lot of our opinions. It both confirmed and also made us aware of things that we're assuming that might not be right. One of the things we wanted is that the game is set in Norway, so of course it should have some Norse elements, but we didn't want to overdo it. But that's basically like one of the main selling points. Everybody grasped onto like, oh, Norse mythology, I'll take 6, it's awesome, I want it. So because of that, we decided that we have to put some more Norse things in the game than we planned to. It won't like, it will always be a part of the story, but we will now want to bring more of things that you can find when you're exploring, more like Easter eggs and stuff like that.
So it's become more of the foundation of the story. So where it takes place, what's happened before, what's going to happen. It's more of the bigger scene of the whole thing. So for our next teaser, we wanted to tone it down a bit. we want to people to kind of. I'm really fond of using trailers and teasers as their own medium to tell stories. And what I think is kind of interesting here is that we have kind of this urban legend going on, and in the next teaser we wanted to go into the story that we're going to tell. Hopefully the observant player is going to, or a viewer is going to connect the dots between those two. So the next time we come out with something, we're going to confirm something more. But yeah. So this is the last teaser that we made. How many have seen it, by the way? Okay, nice.
The story that you're telling me is, and I mean this by the true definition of the word, unbelievable. I mean, ghosts, creatures from children's books and some sort of a higher power. All of that hidden under an iron that doesn't even exist. I've been out there, okay? The lake's too small. I could throw a rock across from one side to the other. There is no hiding mountain, no forest to hide all these things that you claim to have seen. Listen, I need you to help me understand, okay? Help me figure out what happened to him. Just tell me where he is. Where is your son?
Yeah.
And well, I think you've seen that the visuals have been bumped up a bit from the first one, but this was also actually captured during like the summer or at the end of the summer, but we didn't release it until recently. Basically because of what Andreas said, it's about timing and finding the right moment for when you want to reveal something. We had plans to do it back in August, but just stuff happened all the time, and that's game development. You have to adapt and move on. But yeah, for the trailer, we wanted to just showcase more of the dialogue system, even though that was still monologue, because we wanted to. We actually wanted to do sort of an experiment, and we weren't able to do that after we released it, but we were able to do it in the time before when we were just showing it off to people. Because how many of you got the impression of, like, what gender was the other person? Was it a man or was it a woman sitting there being talked to? How many thought it was a man? Okay. So when we showed it off to people, most people just think it's a man. Because that's the player, that's the person that you're always playing as in a game. We just wanted to see if people were expecting it to be a man or a woman. Because in our game, you're playing as a woman, and that shouldn't really be a deal. But yeah, that's the main character of the game. The aspect of the game is to like make it through the woods and find out what happened to your son.
Yeah. So the backstory of the game is when it starts out, you hear a man asking a woman a simple question: "Where is your son?" As she starts to tell the game, as she starts to tell the story, the player gets the control. So it's basically that's how it works. And so in the prototype that we've brought along, or I should say built,
Yeah.
it's more of a monologue. You only hear her side of the story right now, but hopefully it will show you. It's kind of fancy with two screens here. simple controls.
And look, for those of you who are in Bergen, you actually see the game now.
Okay, it's not.
Ja, det var som jeg hadde ikke engang lagt merke til hvor dypt inn i skogen jeg hadde kommet. Og det tok en stund før jeg kunne se noe som helst, for det var så mørkt.
So what I wanted to try out there is if the player is clever enough to figure out that if you switch the flashlight off, night vision comes in. Should probably just a tad more.
Not a game well suited for projectors.
Yeah, so our challenge right here is that we don't want the player to be able to run around like this. So what we have done right now is that we have depth of field. So things out of a certain point gets out of focus. So you'll only be able to spot the silhouettes of things. And later we're going to have a system where her ears adjust as well. So whenever you go in here, you only hear what she is looking at. But when you go out here, you get more of a surround. So you can kind of coordinate. Starting right now. A lot of people commented on her running with the flashlight. We've toned it down a bit, but we don't want people to be able to run around like this.
Jeg kjente igjen refleksen med en gang. Av en eller annen merkelig grunn så drar han sammen på den.
He being the sun, of course.
Det var ikke før jeg så en tid at jeg tok det som et tegn. Ja, eller i hvert fall i hodet mitt var det som om han hadde et eller annet spor som jeg kunne følge.
There.
Of course, the problem we met so far is that everybody wants to pick up all the reflectors.
Thanks, Amnesia.
So we haven't quite decided what we will do with that yet. The main reason why you can't pick it up is that if you get lost in the woods, we want you to be able to find your way again. So we're looking at implementing other systems that can assist you if you get lost, so that people can pick it up, since people seem to want to do that.
That's also the reason for the colors.
Yeah, so you can differentiate them from the other ones.
I've never seen the yellow before, which means
It's
this
a new
is-
one.
Yeah.
That's, yeah. We also toyed with the idea of shaping the. What? Yeah, it's kind of hard to see there.
See here?
Yeah. Like, we want to try and put moments like that, but and right now she's not animated, but it should be like stuff for watching you and things like that.
Constantly being watched.
Yeah. But yeah, we toyed with the idea of shaping the reflectors as emblems or logos or whatever from other Norwegian games to like pay homage to. Like, we have a teddy bear so far. It's not looking like Teddy from Among the Sleep, but we might. I don't know. I think that would be a sort of neat way to have a collector system and showcase other Norwegian games.
So here comes the tension and relief part. The music stuff.
successfully stealthed away from it, so now of course he's approaching it instead.
So when you see this creature, I want you to know that it's just a placeholder. As of right now. So,
Like the main character is also sort of a placeholder for now. Basically, we're kind of waiting for Unity 5 for the new shader system, especially to implement the speed tree. So we will basically these trees we developed back in March, and we haven't touched up on them since. We think we can do it a lot better with speed tree, much more lively for us.
So his eyes reflects. So the rumbling noise means something is talking. So right now I can outrun him, but of course we want to disable players from being able to do this. So if you run through a forest with no lights, see how far you can get without stumbling. So that's a feature. And of course that one. So these are going to be the checkpoints.
And actually, if you can decipher what's on there, that it actually tells a lot of the backstory in the game.
I think this actually exists.
Yeah.
The run. I'm not going to say more about it.
So yeah, that's basically the prototype as is now. We've come a lot further, or we're also developing other parts. But we're using this prototype to learn more, and the game is changing so rapidly just by showing it off. And so that's something you should do, like show it off as early as possible.
Yeah, kind of interesting about the prototype when we've been out showing it was that there was a bug where the creature just stopped up and stared back at people. And some people found that a little bit more antagonizing than anything else. So from that, we're going to redesign this monster, but we're also going to make another monster that is basically a monster acting as a tree. So you might walk around in the forest and hear something rustle, and you turn around and see something pretending to be a tree. Think of the ghosts in Super Mario World, kind of like those.
Or the weeping angels from Doctor Who.
Yes.
So yeah, if you like what you see so far, we need your help. Please like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and sign up for our newsletter. More importantly, we're on Steam Greenlight where you need votes. We're currently we're not doing bad, but it's been a slow track for now. So we need help to like share the word about it. And for those who watched kind of keenly on some of the images he had earlier, you might have spotted a thing that we're going to do. We haven't decided exactly when, but yeah, we're thinking of going Kickstarter in early 2015. So we will need help to spread the word about the campaign then. So please, if you like it, help us out. And thanks for listening. We have time now, like 10-15 minutes for questions, but if you ever have questions later, feel free to reach out. We always want to help out other people When we started the company, what we said we wanted to make it easier for other people to start out. So that's also one of the main reasons why we're taking on the main project already. We want to help them find out if they want to start a company. So yeah, are there any questions?
Can you tell us some about the preparations for getting greenlit?
Basically,
How were you feeling about it? So did you think the bar was high? Or?
It was kind of, to be completely honest, it was Anders is going to GTC and we need to post something. And it's not recommended to do it that way. If you want to do it serious, do it serious.
one of the main reasons why we did it so early was that we wanted to have the data from it as part of the bachelor's project. So we had something actually to report on feedback, reception, how things are going. And also there had just been a Russian horror game which just released a teaser of a flyby environment that looked sucky and it was based on some urban legend and it got greenlit in 7 days and I thought, why the hell not? I mean, it could work out, but I mean, it's not been bad. And for us, it was actually, that moment actually changed us from being just students to game developers because we had people who knew what we were working on giving us feedback. It was an amazing feeling to just like, people like what we're working on. You got really encouraged to just keep doing it. So yeah, showing it off, but maybe wait more than 2 months before you put it on. Yeah.
I mean, the quality of voice acting is already pretty high. I was wondering, do you have external voice actors, and if so, how do you find them?
Well, for the first teaser, we basically.
Can I tell?
Yeah, sure.
So me and Dan were singing a bit, well, let's say not sober, at Anders' birthday party. And we were talking about doing the teaser. And we were talking about old Eric as a character and how we depicted him and who would be awesome to have his voice. And me and Dan just immediately went, you know what would be fun? If we got Tom Waits. Of course, that's aiming it a bit high, but as we were sitting there talking about it, what happened was that someone overheard our conversation, and it just went, so, have you heard about Jakob? No? Okay, so apparently he's a guy who does tribute concerts for Tom Waits, and we're talking about it, so yeah, let's do it, I'll call him tomorrow. And I woke up the next day and I completely forgot about it, but like within noon, Dan sent me his number. So we just texted him, and then afterwards we found out that he actually worked at NFE.
That's not why we got mine.
He's not working in that section, but it was kind of fun though to just include him that early. And I need to ask you a question. What do you think about his no English?
Perfect.
Awesome. Because a lot of people hate it.
But that's mostly Norwegians.
Yeah.
Because it's so embarrassing that he can't speak proper English. We actually had a fan who we did half a day of releasing the teaser. Okay, sure.
Take a question and I'll find it.
Yeah. Do you have Wi-Fi? Okay, yeah. But yeah, basically, the reception abroad was really great. People loved the no English accent. Most people thought it was Stellan Skarsgård for some reason. But we decided from that also that we want to, because as some of you might know, if you get money from NFI, you will have to release your game in Norwegian as well. So we figured, why not try and find actors who can do both the English and Norwegian? Not to save on money, but because it's a game set in Norway, maybe they shouldn't have a really broad American accent. Maybe it would be better that they sound like they come from Norway.
Use the force.
Yes. But yeah. And for the second teaser, basically, we're kind of short on time. Hey, Ole, why can't you do it? But it actually turned out quite okay, I think. Yeah. It filled its purpose.
Alltså, det är case sensitive. Pressen min får ikke til å koble på at det er...
That's nice.
I can post it.
Yeah. Anyway, like...
Basically what it was is a guy who didn't like the voice, a Norwegian guy, and he recorded his own version of it, which is awesome.
Like in half a day, he had written down the entire dialogue and recorded it over again with his like more broad American, really like horror movie. Oh, so scary, because that was so much better. But yeah, question. Yeah.
I know you've gone for the like night setting and dark, scary, but did you have any overhanging like color schemes, like?
Yes.
Yeah. Like just green?
There is an arc that I don't want to go into, but there are separate colors that, yeah, it won't just be green and dark and gray.
Cool.
Patrick.
What's your plans for console?
Well, since you're asking, PlayStation, of course. No, what we're saying is we haven't necessarily decided yet if we want to go self-publishing or with a publisher. We're talking to different people, but we would love to have it on all the available consoles. So yeah, of course, we haven't developed for a console yet, so we don't know if we can make it compatible for the Xbox 360, but Xbox One should be no problem. And yeah, we would be interested in that, of course. But we have to. I luckily enough, through the today, I've gotten a mentor who's from UK, and he's coming to Norway to visit us next week or something. And he's also a CEO of a publisher, so he can help us out with a lot of things if we need to. Tables, what do they do? He really wants to show that trailer.
It's awesome.
But yeah, so we can talk later.
What we said is we're designing it to be a console experience, but primarily we want to release it on PC. Check it
This
out.
first.
Yeah. I love that conversation.
Yeah.
Do I have the time?
Yeah. Any other questions? So, of those of you who are in school here, how many are involved in a team that you're trying to do something with, other than this? Yeah. How far have you gotten with your developments? Like, well, other than the school project, though. How many of you are? Well, yeah.
I have a question. How have you focus on personas, which is a great thing for coming from the design, and it's really useful.
Yeah.
How have you experienced using playtesting? Have you gone for really early and then having playtesting through the whole development process, or is this something only you have played?
Well, test early, test often, but we don't always follow that practice ourselves. So when we were doing it as a bachelor project, we basically only tested close to the end, which is like way too late, but we were always like, no, it doesn't look good enough, we can't show it off, and it doesn't work, and but you should. So now we're testing quite often. We've been able to go to a couple of conventions and play test on actual players and not just designers that we know. It's been a helpful experience. So yeah.
It's also worth mentioning that we're setting up at Forskningsutvalget, Startup Lab. So we have open doors all the time, so people can come in and try out again. We get a lot out of that. So.
A lot of other tech companies there as well, and now actually starting to become some game companies there. So far it's we want to know with the Dragon Box games, and Dirty Bit with Funrun also just moved in with that one person. So starting to get a community there. So when you're ready with your well, we don't actually need to kill the lights for this, it's the sound that's important.
Yeah.
Basically, this is the first teaser with, that's improved. Great work.
Did I do it?
Turn it on.
It's worth it.
Yeah.
Somewhere near the western shores of Norway, there is a town surrounded by mountains.
Near this town, there is a lake. To get the younger ones to behave, the parents residing in the town would scare their children with stories of a man known as Old Eric. Legend told he was living somewhere out on the lake and would snatch up any misbehaving child he could get his hands on. Most people who decided to stay in this town grew up to forget Old Eric. But there are those who claim to have seen him rowing his small boat around in the lake. There are even those who claim to have had a childhood friend that got snatched away by him.
That's not him. This is awesome.
However, no one knows that I've been doing this since the dawn of man.
Did you think that was better?
It was awesome though.
But yeah, at least we have fans that care, so that's good. No, we noticed.
Voices. It's my biggest problem with voices, all of them, is kind of the resonance. It's kind of like they're sort of young.
Yeah.
And I think when we hear about Norwegian fables and so on, we are kind of used to old men, maybe say late 40s or 50s, which
Yeah.
has kind of this darker, more grittier resonance in their voice. So
Yeah,
I think
but like all of the voices we've used so far is most, I can basically guarantee that they won't be used in the game. They've been used for temporary. Since we're looking at doing a Kickstarter, we're now starting to look for the more voices that we will use. So yeah, we haven't totally decided. We got a lead from a friend that says he might be able to get us some weights. But that's a really long shot, so we'll see. But yeah, we're looking at getting some better voices and people who are experienced at acting. Yeah. Okay, so thank you. And